But we do have some more interviews from the walk that we need to show.
We do.
And some wonderful celebrities and some other people that we didn't get a chance to show last week. So shall we just roll that?
Yeah, let's roll and we'll talk about it when we come out.
Absolutely. So take a look.
Well, I come out because I feel so connected with families. We're in this community, and this year feels really different because we have this, new prevalence of 1 in 88, and I just feel that energy of like, all right, it's time to get serious. And what I love is that not only we have a great turnout of close to 30,000 people, but it's the people around the teams that are growing. The teams are getting bigger. So you got one kid with autism and a team of like 30 people that come, and that means the community is getting involved.
Okay.
And of course, I'm on the board, National Board of Autism Speaks, so I would be here regardless, but I get a lot out of it.
All right, now tell us about your foundation.
Well, Holly Rod is doing great. We partnered with Cal State Northridge, and we're going to open our first Autism Compassionate Care Center in Northridge, and we hope to be on all 23 campuses of the Cal State system soon. But the idea is, and I was talking to families today, we're still having to drive from here to there to here to there. We need a one-stop shop, much like the St. Jude model in Memphis, where families can come, get treatment, not have to worry about paying for it, and they can feel good about themselves.
Rodney wrote a book. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? I think it's so important for the dads.
I love Rodney's book. It's called Not My Boy. It's a father's journey with autism, and I'm so proud of it because Rodney calls the dads the forgotten parent sometimes. So it's just really important to have his point of view from a macho ex-NFLer, talk about how he tweaked his expectations for his son. And I think it's been very helpful for dads.
I'm going to perform the national anthem in front of thousands of people.
Are you at all nervous?
No.
You're not nervous? How do you not be nervous?
Because I know I'm going to nail it.
Oh, high five. Shannon and I are going to be out there watching, okay?
That's right, Nancy.
I am here with Gary Cole. Now, you all recognize Gary, an amazing award-winning actor and also an autism dad. Gary, you have a daughter.
I do have a daughter, yes I do.
And her name is?
Her name is Mary, and she's 19 years old now.
And I heard some very exciting news about Mary.
Yes, Mary is off to Lynn University in the fall in Boca Raton, Florida, so we're very excited about that.
Off to college, people.
That's right.
That is what the right kind of treatment and support can bring. And this is a tough question, but what has this journey been like for you?
I'm sure I'm like a lot of parents. When at the beginning, there's a lot of unknown. We found ourselves in a situation where we were pretty fortunate. We got an early diagnosis, which I thought was very important, and a lot of dedicated specialists and teachers and therapists. With her hard work and me driving a lot, she really, she came a long way, and she still has challenges. Some of them social, some of them academic, but she seems very adaptable to them and actually knowledgeable and aware of them, which I think is important. And she's been amazing, and we're very proud of her.
As a father of a daughter with autism who's going off to college, what advice would you give to a parent who has a child that's newly diagnosed?
Do research early. It's never too early when they hit high school to start looking at things, if that's your intention. And find a place that's, gonna give them plenty of help if they need it.
Why did you decide, at a time when I have to say a lot of celebrities were not public about their children having autism, what made you come out and bravely, you and your wife Teddy, become spokespeople and activists for this situation?
When Mary first got her diagnosis, and we were certainly uncertain as to what to do or what was going to take place, really the only resource that we knew that we had some kind of connection to happened to be some other parents that had gone through the same thing. Without their experience and their, kindness towards us and sharing the information and pointing us in some directions that we had choices to get Mary help, it would have been that much more difficult. And then, so we thought, as long as once in a while I was semi-visible, that maybe that could be used to, kind of spread that process, which, as you see here today, that's really what it's all about. It's really kind of helping the next guy. And there's that fear you get when you're told something that you didn't expect. But the amount of information, the more you get it, that fear begins to subside.
Right.
And that anxiety, and you just go and you do the next right thing. And I think that's what, prompted us to say, no, we should tell somebody about this.
It's crazy. Just because you're on a TV show, you have some extra reach. So I take that responsibility to heart, and I want to just do everything I possibly can. Well, my best friend's little sister has autism, and she's been such an inspiration to us. And I have an amazing group of girlfriends. There's 11 of us here today. We're all around, and we thought this would be an amazing cause, an amazing day to get everybody together, raise as much money as possible, and support the research.
Right now, we're joined by a very special guest, Max Burkholder, and you guys know him because of Parenthood. He plays Max on Parenthood, the young boy with Asperger's, and you're doing a really wonderful job doing that. As a parent of a child, I am loving how you're doing that. But let's talk a little bit about what it's like for you as an actor and what kind of research you did to play somebody with Asperger's.
Well, I do a lot of research by going on the websites of organizations that help to treat autism, and just sort of try and see what they help to deal with. And also every few episodes or so, I'll get together with the director and the executive producers and a doctor who specializes in Asperger's, and we'll just sort of talk about how Max would react in certain situations.
My son Kevin Hosseini is an artist in the book, and he's 17, been painting since he was 9, and I had tried to find venues for him to find places for his art to be seen, and in the process I started curating shows for other people with autism, and then it's kind of like an organic process how these books came about. Other artists started sending me their work, and this book has 77 artists and poets from around the world featuring great art. They are Asperger's and autism, and it's stories of families, love, and determination. It's not just the art and poetry. It's really about families.
It's really emotional for me to be here every year. I think, will I get used to the walk? And I never am, because I think when Wills was little, my son Wills, who's now 14, I felt so isolated, like a lot of us do when we have kids with special needs. And when I see this, although I know, because I work with Autism Speaks, that all of these families exist, but when we're all together, it just, even now I have chills, it reminds me that I'm not in my own little dinghy, but I'm in a big family with a ton of support, and not just me, but I see parents with the little ones, and I feel so good that they're here. And I wish I had been here when Wills was little. I wish I had, this had been here for us. So it's really exciting, and it's really emotional.
And how is Wills doing?
Wills is doing great. In fact, Wills is with Team Frostig this year, and Frostig School is unbelievable. And their school for kids with special needs, and their whole concept is to bring them into Frostig and then to release them into mainstream schools. And Wills is being mainstreamed next year, his freshman year, just as we had planned when he came into Frostig. So Frostig did their job so well that we're so sad to leave them. But the teachers there and the staff, and I just can't tell you, that school changed our lives. And they're here walking because of all of our kids at Frostig with autism, but not all the kids there have autism, but they're here anyway because it's an amazing school. So yeah, Wills is doing great. He's over there. He made a lot of signs. He was very busy this week.
What are you working on now?
I'm working on my third memoir, and it's supposedly, we keep pushing back the pub date, but now it's looking at a spring of 2013 release.
All right, Mr. Asner, tell us about your...
You can call me Cuddles.
I can call you Cuddles. All right, Cuddles, tell me about your connection to autism.
Well, I have a son who is autistic, and I have a grandson who's autistic. So I tend to think I must be responsible.
Okay.
and doing everything I can to absolve myself of the sin.
All right, now what about parenthood? You have taken a real proactive role in getting the word out about autism and Asperger's on that show.
All right. The point is to just keep talking and drive our enemies. That's the keepers of the funds in cities, state, and feds. Drive them nuts until they fork over.
Okay, that's the strategy?
That's the strategy.
Okay. All right, well, I want to thank...
Make them give till it hurts.
Okay. What do you think about the new numbers, 1 in 88?
And 1 in 54 for boys.
What do you think about those?
I think it's one of the few real assessments of our society that you can get these days.
Okay.
As opposed to unemployment.
Now, if you had to say anything to an autism dad out there, a word of advice, what would it be?
Celebrate.
Celebrate, that's interesting. Do you see it as a blessing?
It is. It is. If we lived in an autistic world, it would be a more peaceful world. If we lived in an autistic world, it would be a patient world, an understanding world, a reaching out world. We would extend ourselves, and they in turn would be able to open up and impart the very special talent and knowledge that each autistic possesses.
He had me in tears there at the end, right?
I know. How delightful was he?
Well,
was
I'm in
so
love with him. I told him.
I break that to your husband.
You know, I said to him, well, he knows.
Yes.
He says it's okay. I told him, I said, I cozied up to Ed Asner today, and I made him say to me, "You've got spunk." He loved it. Anyway, he also knows I'm in love with Bruce Springsteen. It's okay.
So it's all
okay. Good. So anyway. He just touched me with his remarks, and let's kind of talk about our impressions of everybody.
Yeah.
Holly Robinson Peete.
Oh, well, she's such a delight always. She's so on it always, and intense and wonderful, and she's so beautiful.
God, I know.
She's so strikingly
beautiful.
She is.
She's gorgeous. We love her husband Rodney, and we want to have him on the show.
Yeah.
She kind of makes me feel like a slouch because she does so much. Well, she does so much. Well, you know, we've all got somebody that makes us feel like a slouch. She does so much.
Yes, she does.
And continues to have a career.
Yes.
And, you know, she's just really inspiring. And we saw RJ, her son, who wants to be called Rodney now. And
wonderful. And she's, I've had the opportunity to meet her a couple of times when she's with her kids. And you can tell that she's a very hands-on mom.
yeah, definitely.
And that, you know, it's about her kids. And I think that's one of the highest compliments that I can give.
Yes.
Because she'll be in the middle of an interview, but her children will be there and she'll be talking to them, and you see clearly that that's where her attention is.
Right.
Instead of, you know, being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And she's a lovely, lovely person who's getting it done, raising a whole lot of money.
She is. And you heard about her partnership with Cal State Northridge. So we'll try to get her on the show.
Yeah.
And we'll ask her to come on, and we'll also ask Rodney, who we spoke about his book, which is so important for the dads.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd like to say to moms who might be watching today, get it for your husband.
Yes,
get it for your child's father. And fathers who might be watching today, get it for yourself.
Absolutely. And she co-wrote a book with her daughter as well on siblings. It's a children's book that's a lovely book too.
That's great.
It's a great service.
So she's been so active and so out there, which we applaud. Hunter Brown, the little boy who sang the national anthem. Now, I had been friends with his mother on Facebook and other places, and we've been talking about having him to an event, and we will.
Yeah.
And is he not just a beautiful boy and delightful? And
so excited to be there and you know, and to sing for that many people. And at one point you said to him, you know, you're going to be nervous. No, because I'm going to nail it. I just loved it.
And he did, and he was just darling. Then we talked to Gary Cole.
Yes, and wasn't he just amazing? I think both of us just really loved him because the idea that he was one of the first celebrities to come out.
He really was. I mean, his daughter, Mary, is, as he said, going off to college.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, and he and his wife, Teddy Cole, became very public about this early on. He is the spokesperson for the HELP group, which is one of the largest autism schools in the country.
Yeah.
And we will, in the future, have some people on from there, and Barbara Firestone, who runs that, is doing amazing work.
Yes.
Also a pioneer in the field, like Dr. Doreen Granpeche.
Yeah.
So anyway, Gary is the spokesperson for them, and he's been there in the early days when nobody talked about recovery.
Yep.
No, biomedical was unknown.
Yeah.
And they have gotten this young girl to college.
Yeah.
They have gotten this girl to college.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Really amazing. And I have to say, there's something about when the dads speak that is just delightful for me, because we don't see it as much. We just don't see it as much.
Right.
And to have an articulate male talking about his feelings, it's just precious.
A couple of years ago, my husband, Reed Jackson, was honored by the Best Buddies Society Foundation. And Gary Cole and Rodney Peete were honored as well. And they all got up and gave a little speech about why they do the work they do. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house, let me tell you. Not a dry eye in the house when you hear them talk about their children with autism. It is how it has transformed them as human beings, how it has made them better men.
Absolutely.
Better men. And they know it.
Isn't that a wonderful thing? We had Vince Redmond on the show yesterday, who's a marriage and family therapist, and we were talking in particular about diagnosis and the dads, and how a lot of times the mom and the dad will be on a different page, and he was giving us some great tips if people want to watch the rerun of that show.
Oh, I want to watch it.
About how we need to be patient and how we need to ask, how sometimes we forget in whoever takes charge, whoever the project manager for autism is, sometimes takes charge and forgets to look back and say to the other person, what do you need? And that's sometimes we need to prime the pump and say, it's not always the dad. Sometimes the dad's Johnny on it and talking about it, and the mom isn't, but to be able to say to the other person, what do you need? What can I do for you? What's the hard part for you? When my husband finally admitted what the hard part was for him,
what was the hard part?
It's a very weird story that we had been flying to my niece's wedding, and it was about 8 months after my son had been diagnosed. We'd already started ABA, but we got bumped off of all these flights, and we got stranded in Denver and had to rent a car. And my child had diarrhea all over every plane, all over everything. So we were out of clothes at midnight at night in Denver, having not eaten, trying to find, clothes to change him into. And my husband broke down in tears. And I remember sitting there saying, now is the moment when you're going to break down and cry. And because I said, what's going on? Are you just overtired? Are you want to go home? What? And he said, no, I'm just realizing that he has autism. And I'm, now in this moment, and the week before he had gone to see a performance of To Kill a Mockingbird, and our son is named Jem after the little boy in that play, and we've had, both of us have been, our lives before were very involved in theater, and so he was sitting there and watching the little boy playing Jem and realizing, I don't know if our son is ever going to be able to perform in a play and experience the joy. How Rodney Peete talks about, I don't know if my son's ever going to play on a team.
Yeah, and that's what my husband talked about, because he was at Fox Sports at the time Wyatt was diagnosed. And it was very hard for him to never have a child that would play ball, to never have a child. But Wyatt is playing softball on a special league team.
There you go.
But he's playing it.
And my husband was saying, will my son ever be able to be in a play? Is he ever going to be able to speak so that he could memorize a line? And feeling the grief of that after we'd had this horrible day on planes and covered in diarrhea. And I reached across the table and said, you know what? We don't know what's going to happen, but whatever happens, we're in this together. And he said, that's absolutely right. And maybe, and my son has been in a play now.
Yes.
And, but it was a real moment for me as the spouse to say, oh, he's having his own thing with this. It's different from mine. But
thing.
But I think I had lost that, Nancy, in my, we must get ABA started,
Of course, we all do. We all do.
In any case, Gary Cole was fabulous. And you got to talk to that lovely Kristen Ritter.
I did. She was either on The Tonight Show or Conan last night. She is so delightful. And she was there supporting a team of her friends, I think it was, who has a sister with autism. And, in that show, I guess she plays a real piece of work.
Well, they call her the bee.
Yeah, and really self-absorbed. This girl could be she is the antithesis of that character. So natural and beautiful and sweet and down to earth.
Yes.
Not this vampy bee. Yes. So anyway, she was a delight.
And Max Burkholder from Parenthood.
Yeah, darling.
What a sweet teenager who's doing such a good job depicting Asperger's on that show.
Amazing.
And the research that he's been doing and how conscientious he has been about that. I certainly appreciate that as a parent. And did you see that lovely book that Deborah Hosseini had from The Art of Autism?
I didn't get to look at it closely.
Oh, this is a wonderful coffee table book that everybody should have.
Okay.
And featured some of the artwork that's also on the stamps that were featured by the UN this month.
Oh.
Really beautiful, beautiful, amazing. There were poems in the book. There are sculptures, paintings. I'm telling you, it's breathtaking.
Okay.
It's so interesting. I advocate everybody should get 2. Keep 1 for your coffee table and 1 to give as a gift.
Okay.
It's wonderful, and it supports great arts programs for our kids. And then, of course, Monica Holloway, who we adore.
We love her. Yeah.
If you haven't read Cowboy and Will's, her really amazing book, she's got another book that's coming out, but I laughed all the way through Cowboy and Will's.
Is her next book about autism?
Well, she said it's a memoir, and, so obviously there, some aspect of it, but she was saying that it's more about going home. So we'll have to see what aspect
going
of her
home.
Life. Yeah, so we'll have to see, but I'm sure that autism has touched every, any other autism mom has touched every aspect of her life, so we'll see.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the lovely Ed Asner, who just, what was amazing to me was we were taking pictures with him, and my son was there, and my son was so excited because he's the guy from Up.
Oh, yeah.
He's so many things to us.
Mary Tyler Moore for us.
Right.
And he's been on Hawaii Five-0 lately. Did you know that?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, doing guest starring roles. I mean, the guy is out there.
He's still out there doing that. But for my son, he's the voice of the guy in Up. And so he was excited that he was going to get to meet him. And so he wanted to be in a picture. And so you and I were standing there with him, and my son came over, and I whispered in Ed Asner's ear, I said, "This is my son. This is my boy." And everything changed in that moment. And he was all about talking to my son and so gracious with my son and having a conversation. And I just thought that was so sweet because it had been a long, hot day.
Yes.
And it would have been very easy to just be like, let's get a picture and get out of here.
Very gracious with the children themselves.
Yes. And so I thought that was really remarkable. And I think he was loving you just as much as you were loving him, Nancy. The 2 of you cuddled up like 2 little kittens. It was very cute.
I think he's great. We will have him here anytime, any day to talk. And I am going to remember what he said about wearing the feds and wearing the people down in business. Well, get the money, fork over the money, help our kids, help our kids.
The money.
That's right.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff.